Welcome back to Armpit Intellectuals, the podcast where we uncover the hidden stories and unsung heroes of South Asian history. Today, we're exploring a man whose contributions shaped the very fabric of modern Lahore and beyond. Yet his name is scarcely mentioned in the textbooks of history. We're talking about Sir Ganga Ram, engineer, philanthropist, and visionary who transformed the urban landscape, built institutions that still impact us today, and did all of this while fighting against the odds of his time.
Sir Ganga Ram's work in engineering, urban planning, and social welfare had a profound and lasting effect on Punjab. His work in revolutionizing Lahore's infrastructure, from modernizing water supply systems to creating accessible healthcare institutions, is monumental. Yet his legacy is rarely acknowledged. It's not just a loss to history, it's a tragedy that we're all still living with. So today, we're going to explore the life and contributions of this forgotten pioneer. Ganga Ram wasn't just an engineer, he was a visionary who designed Lahore's water supply system, created medical institutions, and built schools for those who couldn't afford to dream big. His contributions were monumental, but the irony is his name doesn't pop up much in the history books. So why is that? Let's dive into the fascinating life of Sir Ganga Ram, the man who might have been the original urban planner before it was cool.
Cool. But back then, this wasn't just an achievement. It was groundbreaking. Education, especially in technical fields, was almost exclusively reserved for the British elite. According to historian Mubarak Ali, this period marked the slow but vital entry of Indians into professions dominated by Europeans. Let's begin with the basics. Sir Ganga Ram was born in 1851 in the village of Ajnala, near Lahore. He came from modest beginnings in a family of farmers, but his passion for education and determination allowed him to rise above his circumstances. At a time when access to education in colonial India was reserved almost exclusively for the British elite, Ganga Ram not only succeeded but excelled. His journey began at Government College, Lahore, followed by training at the prestigious Thomason College of Civil Engineering in Roorkee, which was one of the finest engineering schools in colonial India.
The odds were certainly stacked against him. His rise to prominence was no small feat. Considering that higher education was still largely inaccessible to majority of Indians, but Ganga Ram was different. His education was not just technical, it exposed him to broader intellectual currents, including philosophy and societal issues, which influenced his approach to urban planning and public welfare. His story is a classic case of how education can be the great equalizer, especially for someone with a background as humble as his.
So let's dive into his early life and education. What's fascinating is how his education at Government College Lahore didn't just shape his technical skills, but also helped him forge friendships with some of the quote-unquote brightest intellectuals of the time. One of those people was Allama Iqbal, another towering figure in South Asian history, which I'm sure many of our South Asian listeners will be familiar with. The interactions, although often overshadowed by Iqbal's poetry and political philosophy, likely influenced Ganga Ram's more holistic, socially conscious approach to his work.
Absolutely. And let's not overlook the importance of education at Thomason College of Civil Engineering. Established in 1847, Thomason was one of the oldest engineering institutions in India and played a critical role in creating a cadre of skilled Indian engineers. Ganga Ram was among the first few Indians to graduate and use this training to serve his country. His engineering acumen was honed in an institution that was primarily intended to train British civil engineers. But as Ganga Ram proved, The thirst for knowledge transcends borders, and the work he did shaped Lahore's modern infrastructure in ways that still benefit us today.
Now, speaking of Government College Lahore, let's also talk about another key institution in Ganga Ram's story, Aitchison College. Established in 1886, Aitchison College was initially set up as a school for the children of British officials and wealthy Indian families. The school was built to nurture a class of future administrators loyal to the British Empire. But what's interesting is that Ganga Ram's contributions to Aitchison weren't just technical, they were symbolic.
Well, there is a saying that, like Pakistan originally was this, ये अलीगढ़ के लौंडों की शरारत थी,
Oh, wow.
बट आजकल लोग कहते हैं कि वो एचएसएन के लौंडों की शरारत है. Okay, because yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know, like just a hint, like people who were in the PTI, like probably most of the people in power are from HSN.
Oh, yeah, for sure. It's like a boys' club.
Yeah. Ganga Ram's engineering expertise was crucial in shaping the campus. His design for the main building became a focal point of the institution's architectural identity. HSN College, which continues to be one of the most prestigious educational institutions in Pakistan, is as much a product of colonial elitism as it is a testament to Ganga Ram's influence.
But it's important to understand that while Ganga Ram contributed to a project that reinforced colonial elitism, his vision for education was radically different. His focus was always on uplifting the masses, not perpetuating the inequalities created by colonial rule. His Ganga Ram Trust School, founded in 1914, was a direct counterpoint to the elitism of institutions like Aitchison. The school was founded with the goal of providing affordable education to underprivileged children, irrespective of caste, creed, class.
The school was designed for the working class children who would have no access to quality education otherwise. In a society where the majority of people were denied basic education, Ganga Ram saw his philanthropic initiatives as a way to challenge the rigid caste system. His focus was on empowering individuals through education and social reform, which was a direct challenge to the elitist institutions that served the upper classes and colonial officers.
Now let's dive into some of his groundbreaking contributions in the field of engineering and infrastructure. One of Ganga Ram's most monumental achievements was his work in modernizing Lahore's water supply system. The city, like much of colonial India, suffered from poor sanitation and inadequate water distribution. During the 19th century, waterborne diseases were rampant, and public health was a far off priority for the colonial government.
Yes, and this is where Ganga Ram's genius really shines. He transformed the water supply system of Lahore, designing an irrigation and drainage network that improved sanitation and reduced the prevalence of waterborne diseases. His expertise in hydraulic engineering made him a pioneer in creating functional and sustainable water systems in urban settings. In fact, his work laid the foundation for modern public health systems in Lahore. His contributions were especially significant because they targeted the welfare of marginalized communities who had long been neglected by the colonial state.
It's quite remarkable, really. His focus on infrastructure wasn't just about creating physical systems, it was about creating a healthier, more livable environment for the people of Lahore. In an era when the colonial government's priorities lay elsewhere, Ganga Ram took it upon himself to implement projects that would directly benefit the common people. And it wasn't just water systems. He was also involved in the construction of roads, bridges, and public buildings, all of which helped modernize Lahore. If you've ever wondered why Lahore doesn't smell like some parts of Karachi, don't come for me, Karachiites. I know you love to. That's Ganga Ram's legacy right there.
Mere Khayyam. Propouts to Mere Khayyam.
But he didn't stop at water. He designed some of Lahore's most iconic landmarks, like you could say Aitchison College. I mean, what goes on inside Aitchison is different, but the building itself is quite remarkable. I mean, the campus, Lahore Museum, and parts of Government College Lahore. And apparently, if it's Instagram worthy, odds are he had a hand in building it.
And let's not forget, he did all this while navigating colonial bureaucracy. Imagine trying to convince British officers to fund sanitation projects when they probably thought washing their hands once a week was sufficient.
Yeah, because they still to this day, 2024, may don't wipe their asses with water.
Yeah, that's very true.
And yeah, these are all visuals I didn't need. But seriously, Ganga Ram wasn't just building for the British, he was building for the people. And that's what sets him apart from your average colonial era civil servant. As biographer Bhagat Lakshman Singh notes, Ganga Ram's vision extended beyond mere engineering. He aimed to improve the lives of all communities, irrespective of religion or class.
Well, let's dive into the philanthropy and the social reforms that Gangaram had the vision for. His work extended beyond infrastructure and engineering. His philanthropic initiatives truly set him apart. His Gangaram Hospital, established in 1921, was one of the first modern hospitals to offer medical care to general public, not just the British elite. At the time, healthcare was a luxury reserved for colonial rulers, but Gangaram was determined to ensure that ordinary people could access healthcare.
He saw healthcare as a fundamental human right, not a privilege. His hospital was built to cater to the needs of the working class people, and it became a cornerstone of healthcare in Lahore. Even today, the Ganga Ram Hospital continues to serve as one of the busiest hospitals in the city, with a legacy that transcends time.
And Gangaram's contributions to healthcare were inextricably linked to his broader social vision. His philanthropy wasn't just about building institutions. It was about building a society where everyone, regardless of their background, could have access to basic needs like healthcare and education. It's this holistic approach to development that makes him stand out from other figures of his time. Now let's talk about the man's heart. Gangaram wasn't just an engineer, he was a philanthropist with a heart bigger than the Lahori appetite for Nihari.
Ooh.
He founded the Gangaram Trust, which funded schools, hospitals, and technical institutes for the underprivileged. His crowning jewel, the Gangaram Hospital, founded in 1921. Even today, it's one of the Lahore's busiest hospitals. And admit it, guys, half of you listening either visited it or know someone who did, or know someone who was born there.
Definitely. It's a pretty, busy, mature hospital in Lahore. It's been there for a very long time. So it makes sense. But, he wasn't just about healthcare. Gangaram was passionate about education too, clearly, since, he developed Aitchison. But while the elite were busy showing off their degrees from Aitchison, Gangaram was busy building schools for kids who couldn't afford to dream big. He even supported the Lady McLagan, I don't know if I said that right, Lady McLagan Girls High School, one of the first girls' schools in Lahore. Talk about breaking stereotypes before I was cool. Sir Ganga Ram. Historian Ian Talbot describes Ganga Ram's philanthropy as, quote unquote, a rare example of cross communal benevolence in an era of increasing communal division.
Can we also talk about how he empowered women through education when most men were like, लड़कियों को स्कूल भेजने का क्या फायदा? Gangaram was basically the desi feminist ally we didn't know we needed.
It's tragic that such a monumental figure has been largely forgotten. Ganga Ram's contributions, while transformative, have often been overshadowed by political and military figures. We tend to focus on those who fought for quote unquote independence, while figures like Ganga Ram, who focused on societal infrastructure and public welfare, are pushed to the margins.
The irony is that Ganga Ram's work was fundamental to the very society that would eventually gain independence. His infrastructure projects were the backbone upon which the modern city of Lahore, and by extension, Pakistan, was built. Yet, when we talk about the architects of modern Pakistan, we rarely mention engineers and philanthropists like Ganga Ram, and give our praises to Doxiadis for designing Islamabad. Islamabad.
Islamabad. Part of the reason is that his close ties to the British Empire posthumously made him a controversial figure after partition. While his contributions to public welfare were undeniable, his association with the colonial state made him an uncomfortable figure, actually, for those who wanted to distance themselves from the so-called legacy of colonialism.
However, this doesn't take away from the fact that his work laid the groundwork for the modern infrastructure of Lahore.
His work laid the groundwork.
That's how it rhymes. Infrastructure of Lahore and beyond. I mean, yeah, basically, that's what his work
Laid the
laid the groundwork. Yeah,
Mhm.
it's the groundwork. That's the right way to
Absolutely.
say it. It's a fruity. We have some rhymes going around.
Yeah, we do, man.
His contributions to public health, education, and urban planning are foundational to the city we know today.
And for someone who did so much, it's wild how little recognition Sir Ganga Ram gets today. His name is on a hospital and maybe a few road signs, but that's it. Why do we do this, Bilal? Why do we forget the people who actually made a difference?
It's a classic tragedy, Zara. First, his ties to the British made him a controversial figure post-partition. People were like, oh, colonial collections. Nah, not our hero. Second, our history books are obsessed with kings, wars, and political drama. There's no room for engineers or philanthropists unless they throw a sword around. And the bigger tragedy is, of course, recognizing the elephant in the room. He was a Hindu.
The Hindu.
The Hindu.
Oh my God. Toba Trump 2024. And it's such a shame because his work wasn't just about infrastructure, it was about uplifting society. He was the guy making sure kids could go to school, women could get an education, and families could access healthcare. Now that's a legacy worth celebrating. In his posthumous analysis, P.N. Chopra wrote, Ganga Ram's contributions, though monumental, were overshadowed by the political turmoil of partition.
Zara, I can't help but wonder how Gangaram would react if he saw modern Lahore. Would he be impressed, or would he cry at the state of Mall Road?
Oh, he'd definitely be giving TED Talks on urban planning, starting with, Beta, flyovers har problem ka solution nahi hote.
And don't even be getting started on the traffic. Gangaram would have probably invented a teleportation device just to avoid the chaos.
Or he'd be roasting Lahoris for spending more time at Gloria Jeans than appreciating the architecture masterpieces he built. Except for the, elite boys who go to HSN. Beta, chai peene ke liye ye museum nahi banaya tha. Well, as we close this episode, it's crucial to remember that history is made not just by political leaders or military heroes, but by those whose work quietly shapes the very systems we rely on. Ganga Ram's legacy teaches us that true progress isn't just about political independence, but about ensuring that society's basic needs are met. If Lahore is the heart of Pakistan, quote unquote, then Ganga Ram is the guy who made sure it has veins, arteries, and a working drainage system.
The next time you're in Lahore, take a moment to reflect on the infrastructure around you. The water systems, the hospitals, the schools. Many of these were shaped by Ganga Ram. His legacy is a reminder that progress doesn't always come with grand speeches or heroic battles. Sometimes it comes from in the form of brick and mortar and the commitment to serve the public good.
So let's reclaim the story of Sir Ganga Ram, a man who gave so much to Lahore, to Punjab, and to the entire subcontinent, yet remains an unsung hero in history. We hope that today's episode inspires you to dig deeper into the untold stories of history and recognize the legacies of those whose names might not be familiar but whose contributions are essential. Until next time, and as always, if you'd like to leave any comments on our Substack or our YouTube video, please do. We'd love to hear your feedback. Peace out.